Good morning and welcome to another installment of another Blue Arc webinar. Today we're going to be talking about, and perhaps this is something that maybe is a little humorous in the way that we position this, but have you ever gotten the feeling that large companies, especially telcos, when you call them, they have a customer motto of "we're happy till you're not happy"? So today we're going to talk about how large telecom has adopted perhaps an anti-customer mindset and how SMB providers are providing a much better experience to those out there. So today with me, of course, I have the man of the hour, who I always have sitting to my right, Mr. Rick Koenders, a senior partner here at Blue Arc, and the man that knows everything about telephony, I think. How are you today, Rick?
Good. Thank you very much, Scott. I'm glad to be here.
So, okay, let me premise this. This is where the frustration begins, I think, with a lot of people. And as you'll see in the slide, we've all called, quote unquote, customer support. And it's, I'm sorry if I'm laughing at that term because just even as of recently, I phoned a large telco for something, and it was definitely their motto was, we're not happy till you're not happy. And one of the ways that I find, and I'll add perhaps my insight into this, actually coming from a very large company previously, is that there's some gates that are set up right out of the, that as soon as you call customer support and you have an issue and you say, of course, like everyone, I don't want to deal with the person that just answered the phone. I want to talk to a manager. So what happens? Oh, absolutely. We put you in touch with, and I'm using air quotes, manager, but a manager that has absolutely no authority within the corporate infrastructure. And as you and I were talking offline before the webinar this morning, and I said, it's an interesting question to ask them what their signing authority is within the corporation. Because if you're not allowed to sign off on anything, let alone, I want to speak to somebody that has at least $100,000 signing authority to make sure that my problem goes away. So that, to me, is where the frustration begins. And I think it escalates from there through quite a few other gates. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So the slide, the difference between large telecom and SMB telecom customer service. And let's talk about customer service. And does size matter? So you tell me, Rick, how do you differentiate in your mind? And let's not even talk about, the companies at hand right now. But if you can just tell me what you see as the difference between a customer service scenario in a large telecom corporation as opposed to the customer service scenario as it pertains to an SMB scenario.
Well, I think it's pretty simple, and it's one of the reasons why we actually started Blue Arc, is that large corporations ostensibly have very little interest in end user small customers. And I don't mean it if you talk at a person-by-person level or a vice president of a large telco, what does he think of his customer? Because he'll tell you that the customer is the most important thing. But the problem is that those corporations are so large, that care, that love, that passion for who the end user customer is doesn't trickle down, doesn't really matter to the guy who's on the front lines, getting a paycheck, typically a minimal paycheck, with no real connection to the company's core business, just not interested in what happens. They want to do their job. They want to pass the metrics that their management team has pushed down on them, and that's it. It's really a lack of concern.
You bring up a really good point, right? You alluded to a relationship scenario there, and I think that's something that we see, almost daily now. Is that when you look at how businesses have changed so much, really, in the past even like 10 years, and with technology the way that it is, and more small businesses catering to other small businesses that then seem to organically grow together, there seems to be much more of a, I don't want to say face-to-face like scenario, but I know in my experience, for instance, is that I'm now a Blue Arc customer. And for me, I don't see it as, I'm not calling customer service in that blind fashion of, hey, maybe I'm talking to somebody in Toronto, maybe I'm talking to somebody in Vancouver, maybe I'm talking to somebody in the US or Asia or wherever that may be. No, I can pretty much know that the person I'm talking to is, 3 or 4 offices down from you.
Live and local, yeah.
Yeah, and it's, and that's something that relationship to me means a lot, because now it's more so you mentioned the care scenario, is that I find with small to medium businesses, catering to small to medium businesses, there is, we'll say, a mutual respect, and that mutual respect tends to lead to a caring scenario. Do you agree?
Oh, I absolutely agree with that. In fact, if you take a look at the makeup of a lot of small business owners, there are people who are entrepreneurs. They wanted to start their own business. There was something missing about their relationship that they had with their managers. There's managers in the large corporations that many of us work with, as I did, as you did. And part of it is having that touch and that feel for your customer, where working in a large corporation, if I had a customer that was unhappy about something and the company said, yeah, well, too darn bad, guess what? I'd be telling my customer, well, too darn bad, sorry about that. I did my best, but guess what? It's just not going to happen. I couldn't stand that. I couldn't stand looking at my customers, talking to my customers, and feeling that I wasn't doing a service to them. Right now, can I solve all my customers' problems? No, but you know what? At least I know that I've done everything I possibly can. I've had that discussion with the customer, and they know we've put our effort in and raised it up throughout our corporation. And if we can't do it, we have recommendations of someone else that could help in specific areas. I care. But this is what small does. You care.
And the thing is, but you bring up a really good point as well, is that, you can't be everything to everyone. And especially in this business, you mentioned this, sometimes maybe you can't solve an issue. But isn't it interesting that you're still willing to go that extra distance and say that, but we can recommend somebody that can also help, right? Let me put you in touch with someone else that is, perhaps a different company entirely, but that has, the skill set to maybe resolve a certain issue. Again, I don't see that as something that's coming from quote unquote corporate America, corporate Canada in that sense. I don't think they would ever pass you to another company in any way.
Well, big tends to mean trying to be everything to everyone and end up being nothing to nobody, because oftentimes in large corporations there's a marginalization. Mm-hmm. So you want to provide an extra service because you're trying to increase your revenue, but in so doing you don't provide it nearly as well as another provider who's focused on that. I mean, certainly trade-offs, but I got to tell you, I love what we do. We provide specialized service for our customers, and I like to think we do it better than anybody else.
Well, let's talk about that revenue model as well. Is that, if we look at, say, for instance, a customer retention scenario, yeah. And as you can see on the slide, I mean, I purposely put the statement of why large telcos don't seem to care. And I'm not saying that they don't care, but they don't seem to care. And I think, to me, there's several factors ingrained in this. Is that, first of all, customer retention within an SMB perspective, and you and I have talked about this, is that there is one, when you have a smaller company, revenue isn't, I dare say, as abundant, if you would, in sort of, it's like you look at the billions and billions of dollars these massive corporations make on a yearly basis, and they've got, 100,000 employees and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I know, because I have come from that. I've worked for one of the largest companies in the world. It is, the joke was that we used to spend close to $1 million just in a 4-hour barbecue for our company, right? Yeah. Per location around the world, right? There seems to be that aspect of it's just money, And as much as you can say, hey, we're going through a downturn. Yeah, but the senior executives still get millions of dollars in bonuses and everything else. In an SMB perspective, the retention is paramount, in the sense that it's not just about even, the importance of having those clients around for a long time directly speaks to the longevity of the company. And that's something I think that's very important. So in order to have that longevity, you have to have happy clients.
That's the whole reason for our business. So take a look at the performance metrics for the large telecommunications companies. they measure their success by the churn rate that they have of their customer base. And they'll measure those churn rates in 10%, 9, 12, whatever percent it is, and they'll think it's great. Hey, we've only had X percent churn. That means X percent unhappy customers, if I read that properly. In a business like ours, we would not be around if we had that type of churn, because, of course, the revenue stream would be leaving our company. But also, our business is based on references, as most small businesses are. An unhappy customer today is a few lost customers in the future, and we just can't afford to operate like that. So we have to focus on retention. Of course, we focus on bringing in new business, but we have to keep the customers that we have happy, enjoying, and using our service on an ongoing basis.
Well, and speak to the retention thing. This is something that, you know, and again, it never struck me until there was a few months ago. We had some gentlemen in here, some friends of ours from TELUS, and we were discussing, you know, sort of that actual retention model. And even straight from them, it was literally, it's like, well, because of Canada's telco space and the way that the telcos look at one another is that, you know, again, we talk about corporate mottos. Their corporate motto is, yeah, you'll be back, right? Like, and he literally says, like, you know, at times they're kind of all the same. Yeah. In the sense, like, their corporate structures are the same. And I mean, you know, a good business model is a good business model. So, I mean, people repeating it makes sense. But literally, it was a scenario of, yeah, you sign up for a contract, you'll eventually get mad at us, you'll move to Bell. Right. You'll sign up for a contract, you'll get mad at them, you'll move to Rogers. You sign up for a contract, you get mad at them, and you'll move back to TELUS. And it's, you know, and it was just that scenario of, wow, is it short-term memory loss, or is it just, I think more so, it's just, I think as Canadians in general, because of the business scape in which the telco scenarios are set up, is that we really just don't have the same choices that we do in the U.S. either, right? Like, you see these U.S. bundles that come out for, you can have your business phone and system and your, you know, your mobile phone with unlimited data, unlimited minutes, everything, because there's so much more competition.
Right.
And then in Canada, we seem to be at this phase where it's just, you know, we're starting to see a little more competitors pop into the space. But how do you feel about that? I mean, when you see that, because you come from a large telecom background as well, and it's, did you see that kind of scenario of the, yeah, you'll be back?
Absolutely, you'll see it. But I mean, the cycles just work that way. I mean, I think, you know, we have many people on this webinar, and I suspect every person on this webinar has gone through 1 or 2 or 3 wireless providers. You've gone the cycle. I've gone the cycle myself, thinking
I've done it so many times I can't even count.
Thinking that maybe it's going to be better. Yeah. You know, you've seen less of that in the wireline space where Blue Arc plays, and it's really our market, where the vast majority of companies that we sell to are Bell. And, you know, the vast majority of them, when we talk to them, say, I hate Bell. And I go, well, why? Has your phone not been working? Yeah, my phone's not been working, but if I call them up, it's like they don't know who the hell I am. They don't know what I want. They have no idea what I want. They have no idea what I might need. And it's difficult to even reach somebody that knows anything about anything. And I think I pay them exorbitant rates for what I perceive as nothing.
Well, you brought up an interesting point. When people have the perception, we'll call it the grass is always greener scenario, right? Is that, but we're talking about retention at the moment. But is it, you know, the concept of customer retention, as you said, is based on, you know, churn levels, and there's like, basically it's just a numbers threshold game.
Yep.
Most of those corporations, as I can see, and again, from my background of coming from a very large company, is that net new, there's a greater value within a company and greater incentives for sales, greater incentives to the both internal, you know, people working, as well as incentives to the potential client to become a customer more so than to keep a customer. And I think that's what, there's an odd paradigm there. That is that we literally, you know, at a certain point, we don't care if we cut you loose, because it's more important to just sign you up than to keep you going.
Right.
And it's, now, how do you see that, say, within the realm of Blue Arc? I mean, obviously, as you said, right, is that there's this ongoing challenge, well, not even challenge, it's an internal challenge to ensure all the time that clients are happy. So how do you do that with clients? Let's talk about that, like from even like a retention perspective, even what makes a small business, small, medium business enterprise such as Blue Arc different from that perspective when it comes to retention?
Well, we've had the fortune of, first off, knowing our customers. We know virtually every one of them.
Mm-hmm.
If I haven't spoken with them personally, certainly one of the other partners in the company has spoken with them personally. That's one way. So we keep an ongoing dialogue with senior management of the companies that we work with. Not every day, certainly,
Mm-hmm.
but we also have a support organization that's always there. We love to work with our customers proactively. They often have modifications to their business that require us to intervene, and we tend to know what each customer does. That's really how we like to operate.
Well, and if I may interject, and because I've moved on to the next slide because I think this speaks directly to this, is that if we talk about the road to resolution, is that at Blue Arc and companies in the same size as Blue Arc, and I know my company is the same way, is that having that flat management scenario makes it much easier. As I was saying it from the very beginning, right? As the quote-unquote manager with no signing authority and no authority really with the corporation whatsoever.
Right.
But they've been given this posthumous title just to make people calm down because you want to speak to a manager. Having that flat management style, how do you see that as a benefit to clients as far as we'll say the escalation process? Because we talk about things like, what's L1 support, L2 support, and I think everyone's called everyone from support for their cell phones to their, it could be a computer, it could be anything. We've gone through those gates of, well, did you try turning your computer on and off?
Right.
Yeah? Oh, okay. Well, I can't help you. Wait online for 20 minutes and I'll get you to the next level. So how do you see that as a differentiator?
Well, I mean, flat management structure certainly makes it easier for your customers to get to someone very senior very rapidly. But also in a flat management structure like us, and the importance that we instill in our customers, or that we feel our customers are to us, means that we want to get engaged for
Mm-hmm.
sure. Means that we don't put metrics in place that say to our people who handle the phones on the first the level 1 calls, we don't say to them, look, try not to escalate this call to someone else in the company. Our belief is, if you're uncertain what the problem is, you don't think you can handle it properly, then bring someone else in, including someone from the management team, because the management team knows who the customers are. We tend to be pretty knowledgeable, and we like to engage. I mean, will it always be like that? Maybe not, but I think the importance of where you don't see in these significantly large organizations, like Bell, like TELUS, whatever it may be, is that they have no desire or motivation to push down responsibility to their staff.
Mm-hmm.
Their objective is to isolate the customers, especially what they consider the low revenue customers, the small, medium business customers, handle them as quickly as possible, get it off, and now they can say in their metrics, we handled 90% of our calls within 2 minutes, and aren't we good?
Mm-hmm.
With very little tie back to customer satisfaction. In a flat management structure, your tie back to customer satisfaction is pretty damn quick. If you have an unsatisfied customer, they're going to call you.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to do whatever you can to make sure that they're satisfied when they first hit the company, so that you don't have to deal with an unsatisfied customer at management level. If you're in a large corporation, the chance that a customer actually gets to a senior level manager is negligible.
Mm-hmm.
And those guys are, 1, out of touch, 2, in many ways don't care, and 3, kind of encourage it. What the heck do I want as a vice president of Bell to have a customer call me up, especially an SMB customer, and start complaining that they're not happy?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen.
As the person that's responsible for the communications here at Blue Arc, I'm, as we, for the listeners, today, is that we're sitting in a boardroom that is, has all of these massive glass windows, and there's, transparency both figuratively and literally, and we look out in this massive lot space, and again, it's your corporate culture unto itself is, to me, set up in the sense that, everyone is in with this massive loft, everyone has access to each other at all times, and as someone that's just here, watching it happen, is that you see people, jumping from desk to desk all the time and getting information from other people and their opinions, and utilizing very much more of that team effort to solve issues and the like than what you see, I would think, in a large telecom scenario as well.
Well, absolutely. But another thing that we love to do in our company is have our management team, including myself and President Jay Swayze, our CTO Brian Parisian, actually answer calls on a regular basis. We oftentimes will join the support group so we understand what's going on in our customer base.
So you know that you just set a dangerous precedent, because now everybody's listening, including myself. Now
wants to call me up.
No, not that. I'm saying that with my cell phone service, now I'm calling. When I call Bell the next time I have an issue, I want to talk to the president. I want him to solve my problem. Why do I get the feeling that I won't be able to get through to him?
Well, he might solve your problem by letting you loose without paying a penalty. So
maybe that's it. Maybe that's worth it. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe it is.
So let's go on to the next topic, and this is something I think is very important. Is this idea that we talk about leading edge technology, and I had a very interesting conversation with some peers yesterday that are in different facets of IT and information management and the like, and it's interesting because one of the things that seems to have come to light as of late is that, and we can talk about everything from consumer electronics to all these different things that influence how business works on a daily basis, and the speed of business and even from a small and medium business perspective is nothing short of outstanding. Like it is just, to see the way that small businesses react to things, to see the way that small businesses can handle even the largest of contracts. I know companies, even including our own, that deal with massive corporations on a daily basis. But that all comes back to technology and business process.
Yep.
And one of the issues, and this is where I'm really looking for your insight here, because this is an interesting one, is that there's a saying, that you can have any color you want as long as it's black. Mm-hmm. And that seems to be the premise of how you get, say, business communications from, and your unified communications, if you want to call it unified, from the large telcos.
Right. And
it's a scenario that these companies move at the speed of glaciers. I find a lot of the times getting these things, if you're looking at implementations, you're looking at that technology that you're hearing about on, technical reviews on major news stations across the world stuff. You want that now. Yeah, that's going to be another 18 months. And as well as, it's this concept of bending your business process to suit your provider, where should it not be the other way around?
Well, that was again one of the reasons why Blue Arc got into this business to begin with, is because we thought the SMB market was severely underserved. So, what I always like to talk with my customers about is that many of them bought PBX systems, boxes on the wall, because they weren't satisfied with what their carriers were providing them. They weren't getting the service, the responsiveness, and so they said, hey, great, let's get these complicated boxes and we'll become our own telecom companies.
Then they weren't satisfied with their own service to themselves.
That's exactly it. So, all right.
Now we understand Bell.
All right, we have Belltone.
Yeah.
And you just paid, $30,000, $40,000 for a box on the wall.
Yeah.
That ostensibly gives you dial tone.
Yeah.
So what has it done for you? Nothing. So this is why, when we started the business, what we wanted to do is actually drive back the value to small business of using a carrier, but allowing them to have a simple interface where they can modify their services as required as their business changes, and leverage us as a company that has that experience with the right application, the right portals, and the right service, so they can do more with what they have and actually look bigger to their customers and actually have a product that fits their processes. I mean,
Shocking.
Yeah, with simple things. What if you started up a new sales or support organization? How would you route calls to them? How would you prioritize calls to certain individuals? How can you do that? A PBX, ostensibly you can do it, but then you got to hire somebody who actually knows how it works, and it's so darn complicated, there's just no way to figure it out. You call up someone for support, and now all of a sudden you're on the clock. And so we want to come up with a model that, one, we had a simple tool so people could serve themselves if they felt the inclination to do so. If they couldn't, or were uncomfortable with it, or didn't know how to do something, we didn't want to penalize them and say, great, call us, but let the clock is ticking, and that would be $150 an hour, because now people end up reverting to where they were before, dial tone. So the ability to have, one, a simple platform, and two, a process in place where customers could actually consult with us as part of an overall service offering that is also cost effective. Now they can start taking our product and using it for more interesting things, leveraging it into the business, leveraging it into their marketing and communications, leveraging it into their support organization. So more and more things like that.
So we have a question here, is that, and this is one that came in and it's speaking directly to this, is that the person is asking, they've been trapped in one of those special offers. We'll call it a quote-unquote package deal. Mm-hmm. And they're talking about the business process, and they're asking, with Blue Arc, do you have a consultative approach that could perhaps help them solve some of their issues within their business processes as it applies to their telecom?
Absolutely. That's everything that we do. So the way we start with our sales process is actually trying to understand what the challenges that a business is having. And I think small businesses really are surprised by that, because people don't come in saying, what are you doing? What are you having problems with? And talking about how to fix them. It typically is, I've got this box and it does so many darn things, you're going to love it. And you know what? I'm a small business owner. I don't care. Here's my problem. Let's start by solving my problem. Mm-hmm. And then as we move forward, we can come up with different solutions. So that's the first start, is right up front in the sales process. The second part of it is in the administrative training of our system, where we actually go through the flows of a business and understand where calls are directed, how calls are answered. If calls aren't answered, what is the escalation process, so that we can effectively help a small business customize our software and our services for their business. And then the third way we do it is through our ongoing support. So when you call our support line and you have a question, how do I do X? Typically the response you'll get is, you can do it this way, but what are you trying to achieve? And let's talk about that, because there may be a more interesting way that we can adapt this to suit what you're really trying to do, rather than turning a widget off or turning a widget on. So it's really the end-to-end model that we put together, I think.
Yeah, here's an interesting question. This one just came in online. Is that, do you outsource your technical support, and where does it reside? Has someone had a bad experience? I'm sorry to hear this question. That's kind of an odd one that came up.
Well, we don't. I mean, one of the things we always talk about is that our support is live and local. We think that's important. We like our customers dealing with people that they know. Makes them more comfortable, and it also gives us real-time knowledge of what our customers' businesses actually do. So when you're talking with someone in our support organization, they typically have a pretty good idea what you've done, why you've set it up that way, or if they don't know it, there's someone else in the organization that will.
You know, that brings up a really interesting point as well, is that one of the things that I know that you brought to the table with us as well is that, you know, as much as we're like, hey, you know, you guys are clients of our company and we want to be clients of yours, and I guess we believed all the marketing material that we put together for you guys, which is good. Yeah. But we see it every day here when we're here, and it's one of the things that was of great value to me is that you brought to the table the experience of having dealt with, on a personal level, hundreds of other companies that are similar to mine in corporate structure. Yep. And that's something that I don't think you would find we go back to that question as far as the, hey, I'm trapped in a bundle scenario, is that I think a lot of the times, you talk about business process and bending to business process to the large telecom as opposed to vice versa, is that the sign-up process is literally pick one from column A, pick one from column B, this is how much it is, thanks. And it's like, but I have some questions. I'm sorry, your questions will not be honored at this time. Right?
Yeah, you get a lot of those bundles, and we're not a cell phone provider, and we suffer with a problem like that with our cell phone provider. Mm-hmm. Is that, yeah, well, you got that bundle back then, but your new employee isn't going to go on that bundle. Well, I just want that bundle. Yeah, well, we don't have that. Now, you could change everybody else over to that bundle for a small administrative yada, yada, yada. Yeah. And I'm like, come on, really? Yeah. It's not that complicated. Yeah. And that's where people get frustrated, right? It's where they're told that you can have it this way.
But in my experience with you guys, I mean, I have to say it was, as much as we work together on a daily basis, I'm still a little bit taken back in the sense that it's that you asked me the question several times of, let's try to figure out exactly how your employees work, where they work, what your needs are as far as everything from, you need a phone on a desk, do you need soft phones, do you need all these different things, do you need to twin your phones, and it was I know this stuff realistically because, we're responsible for communications here, but at the same time, it was like, I don't think I ever thought about that. Wow. And that actually gave us some insight as far as, even setting up the scenario that you've set up for us. So that's a little bit, I mean, it's really encouraging in that sense to know that there's somebody there to actually help you in your business to say, hey, you know what, I've dealt with hundreds of businesses just like yours, so I bring that knowledge to the table and that this is the best practices applied to this scenario for you, and then we can take those best practices and then augment them even further to suit the very granular needs of your company.
Well, and you see some larger corporations trying to implement that. They go, here's your small business expert, and you go and you talk to your small business expert, and it's like, hello, sir. They've gotten out of college, and now they're going to advise you on your business. It's like, okay, it's nice try, but I've installed a phone book on your system that can get 10,000 people, and it's like, oh, come on now. That's not what it's about. Nice try, and it's a nice gesture, but the reality is,
that's a nice pat on the head going, thanks for the effort, but you can go home.
And but they understand the problem, but they just don't have the capability to deliver on it because they'll never find someone with the depth of experience that can actually go in and consult and help. That's what we do.
So I guess we've come up on our 30 minutes, and obviously we don't want to keep anybody in the office on a beautiful Friday morning with the sun shining at the end of June.
At least in Ottawa.
Yeah, at least in Ottawa. It's beautiful here, so anybody listening to this even 3 weeks from now on YouTube, well, it was beautiful. But no, thank you very much, Rick. I appreciate it, and we've obviously, as always, left the contact information up here, and I know that you guys are always interested in hearing from new companies out there, and even, as we said, from that consultative perspective that you can help them, set up their business processes that fit their needs. So I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend, everyone. Bye.